You've probably felt it before. A small ache, a bit of nausea, a rash you barely notice. You hear the same line we all hear. It's nothing, you're fine. But radiation's deadliest cases start exactly like that, with level 1 symptoms so normal. No one realizes what's coming. These 5 people didn't die from high doses. They died because the danger looked harmless. Case 1. The Goiania girl, 1987. Level 1. Symptoms: a skin irritation, a small rash, mild nausea. Final level, Level 3. Acute radiation syndrome. It started with a glow. Not heat, not fire, not fear. Just a soft blue shimmer. Something a child would mistake for glitter. When 2 scrap scavengers in Goiania, Brazil, broke open a discarded radiotherapy capsule containing cesium-137, they had no idea they were handling one of the deadliest isotopes on Earth. They carried it home, showed friends, gave the dust to children to play with, and that's how a 6-year-old girl named Lyda das Neves became contaminated. At first, her symptoms were nothing: a mild rash, a small sore on her arm, a complaint of stomach pain. Her mother brought her to the clinic. Doctors saw no burns, no vomiting, no hair loss, nothing that looked like radiation. They diagnosed dermatitis and sent her home. Level 1. No danger, no urgency. But cesium doesn't hurt on the first day. It buries itself deep, in skin, in blood, in bone marrow, and waits. Within a few days, her rash darkened, turning purple. The little scratches became ulcers. Her hair began falling out in clumps. Her gums bled when she tried to chew. When she woke one morning, her eyes were swollen shut. Only then did her family drag her back to the hospital. Too late for level 1. She was already at level 2, climbing fast toward level 3. Doctors were confused. They treated her for infection, for allergies, for poisoning, everything except the actual cause. The truth only surfaced when multiple relatives arrived at the hospital with the same strange symptoms. Authorities traced it back to the glowing powder, and only then did they realize the catastrophic exposure. They isolated the girl in a special lead-lined room. Nurses had to wear full body protection. Doctors watched her blood counts plummet to 0. Her skin separated from the tissue beneath. Her organs started failing one by one. She lasted 24 days, not because the dose was instantly fatal, but because everyone believed the level 1 lie. The first symptoms looked too small, too harmless, too easy to misjudge. Her death wasn't caused by high radiation. It was caused by the time lost, believing the early symptoms didn't matter. Case 2. Alexander Litvinenko, 2006. Level 1 symptoms: stomach pain, diarrhea, mild vomiting. Final level, Level 3 to 4 radiation poisoning. He thought it was food poisoning. That's how it began. Nothing dramatic, just stomach cramps, weakness, a bit of vomiting, symptoms common enough to ignore. Doctors took one look at him and agreed. Something he ate, maybe a virus. Rest, hydration, you'll be fine. Level 1. A nuisance, not a threat. He didn't know the cup of tea he drank days earlier carried polonium-210, one of the deadliest radioactive substances ever created. A material so toxic that a speck smaller than a grain of salt could destroy a human body from the inside. But polonium is quiet in the beginning. It doesn't burn or sting. It kills slowly, cell by cell, organ by organ. And Litvinenko's early symptoms were classic level 1: mild nausea, fatigue, dehydration. Doctors treated him for infection, then for gastroenteritis, then for pancreatitis, everything except radiation. By the time more serious symptoms appeared, hair falling out, immune collapse, unstoppable tissue damage. Polonium-210 was already in his bone marrow, delivering thousands of sieverts directly into his organs. Within days, he lost the ability to absorb nutrients. His white blood cells reached 0. Internal inflammation spread through every organ. He deteriorated in plain sight, while teams of specialists still debated the cause. Only when they found alpha radiation in his urine did the world understand what had happened. But by then, he was already beyond rescue. The poison had rewritten his cells faster than doctors could stabilize them. He survived 23 days, far longer than anyone should survive such contamination. But the outcome was inevitable. He didn't die from a massive blast of radiation. He died because his level 1 symptoms fooled everyone, including the experts. Case 3. the unsuspected waiting room victim. Level 1 symptoms: fatigue, mild skin redness, frequent headaches. Final level: fatal bone marrow failure and leukemia. Hospitals are supposed to be the safest places on Earth. But in the 1980s, at a large US medical center, a shielding defect in a radiotherapy room leaked low-level gamma radiation into the waiting area, a place where family members sat for hours. While patients received treatment, no alarms went off, no sensors detected anything unusual. The levels were too low to trigger instrumentation, but high enough to accumulate in a human body over months. One man, whose wife was undergoing repeated cancer therapy, spent hours in that hallway every week. He sat on the same chair, in the same corner, a few feet away from a wall that was supposed to block the radiation. He read newspapers there, ate snacks there, sometimes even napped when appointments ran long. Nurses passed by him every day without a second thought. To them, that hallway was just another quiet waiting area. But to him, it was a slow, invisible exposure chamber. And every minute he spent in that chair quietly pushed his body toward a fate no one imagined he was walking into. His symptoms were mild at first: headaches, fatigue, slight redness on his skin. Doctors blamed stress, lack of sleep, anxiety. They assured him there was zero radiation exposure. Level 1: invisible, ignorable, unimportant. But gamma rays don't need high power to kill. They need time, and he had given them plenty. After months, he began experiencing deeper fatigue. Minor infections took longer to heal. His blood tests came back slightly abnormal. Doctors still saw nothing alarming until bruises appeared across his arms and legs, without any injury. A full workup revealed the truth. His bone marrow was failing. Radiation-damaged stem cells were no longer producing healthy blood. Within weeks, he developed acute leukemia, the textbook outcome of long-term low-level gamma exposure. Investigators later confirmed the leak. The wall shielding the radiotherapy machine had a construction error that allowed a beam of scattered radiation to penetrate the waiting room. The hospital quietly fixed it. But the man died less than a year later, a death caused not by a deadly dose, but by months of level 1 exposure everyone swore was impossible. His doctors had been right about one thing: it didn't look dangerous, and that's what killed him. Case 4. The Cobalt-60 apartment victim. Level 1. Symptoms: fatigue, headaches, mild dizziness. Final level: fatal leukemia from long-term low-level gamma exposure. Most people imagine radiation disasters happening in labs or reactors, but one of the quietest, deadliest level 1 cases happened inside a perfectly normal apartment building. In the early 1990s in Chengdu, China, a construction company unknowingly used cobalt-60 contaminated steel to build several residential towers. The contamination came from a discarded industrial radiography source that had accidentally been melted into recycled metal. No alarms, no warnings. No one knew. Families moved in. Children played on the floors. People slept inches away from steel beams that emitted low but steady gamma radiation, a dose too small to feel, too small to trigger any detector the government had at the time. And that's where one man, a 33-year-old office worker, unknowingly stepped into the slowest radiation accident in modern history. His symptoms began the way nearly every level 1 case begins: fatigue, headaches, light dizziness after long workdays. Doctors blamed stress, overworking, maybe a vitamin deficiency. No burns, no hair loss, nothing dramatic. Level 1, harmless, forgettable. For nearly 2 years, he lived in that apartment. A low-level dose, all day, every day. Small enough that it never hurt, large enough that it never stopped. Then, things shifted. He began developing frequent colds. His gums bled when brushing. Small bruises appeared without explanation. Doctors ordered blood tests, and the results hit like a brick. Massive drops in white blood cells, platelets, and hemoglobin. Bone marrow failure. The next months were brutal. He developed infections his body couldn't fight. His liver swelled. Night sweats soaked his clothes. His bones ached so badly he couldn't stand. Eventually, the diagnosis became official: acute leukemia caused by long-term low-dose gamma radiation. When investigators scanned the apartment complex, the walls lit up with radiation readings 10 to 20 times higher than safe residential limits, but none of the residents had ever known, because the early stage, the level 1 symptoms, looked exactly like everyday life. He died months later in a hospital bed, surrounded by family members who had also been exposed, also showing early symptoms. His death wasn't from a meltdown or explosion. It wasn't from a dramatic dose. It was from a home that quietly killed him 1 milligram at a time, and a medical system that thought level 1 fatigue was just stress. Case 5. The scrapyard, cask worker. Level 1. Symptoms: mild skin redness, nausea, tingling. Final level, fatal systemic radiation poisoning. It began in a junkyard, not a laboratory, not a reactor, just piles of old equipment rusting under the sun. In Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, a hospital had lost track of a radiotherapy unit containing cobalt-60 pellets, an intensely radioactive source used for cancer treatment. The machine was dismantled and sold for scrap metal. The dealers cut it open, scattering 4,000 tiny pellets across the yard like metallic seeds, and the workers picked them up with their bare hands. One man, a 28-year-old father, pocketed several pellets, thinking they were ball bearings. He carried them around all day. Some rolled under his bed, a few were found in his truck, others were stuck in the soles of his shoes. The first symptoms appeared the next morning: a small red patch on his thigh, a tingling sensation on his fingers, slight nausea. His wife told him it was probably the heat. He agreed. He went to work. Level 1, nothing to worry about. But cobalt-60 emits powerful gamma rays, and those pellets had spent hours sitting in his pockets, burning invisible holes through him, cell by cell. By the third day, the red patch had blistered. His skin peeled. His nausea worsened. He vomited once, then twice, but insisted he was fine. Doctors treated him for dermatitis, then for infection, then for skin irritation caused by chemicals. No one suspected radiation, not until dozens of other workers, and even scrap buyers across the city, began arriving at hospitals with the same mysterious symptoms. By the time the government traced the contamination back to the junkyard, the man's condition had collapsed into level 3 radiation syndrome. His hair fell out in handfuls. His bone marrow stopped producing blood cells. Ulcers opened across his body. He developed uncontrollable internal bleeding. He held on for weeks, a fight his organs were never meant to win. He died in the final stage of radiation poisoning, his internal organs so damaged that autopsy teams had to handle him like wet tissue. But the part that haunts the medical reports the most is how it began, not with a deadly blast, not with a dangerous leak, with level 1 signs: a rash, a tingling hand, a little nausea, that no one took seriously, until the truth was already irreversible. You felt those level 1 signs before. Fatigue, nausea, a rash, a headache. We all have. They look ordinary. They feel harmless. And that's exactly why these 5 people never knew what was happening inside their bodies. Until it was far too late. Radiation didn't kill them instantly. It didn't shout. It whispered. The danger wasn't the dose. It was believing the early signs didn't matter. Because in every one of these cases, the deadliest stage wasn't level 3. It was level 1.